As we look around, we see the different objects. What enable us to see those objects? There is a phenomenon known as light. Light is a form of energy which enables us to see the objects all around us. During the daytime, we are easily able to see the objects because as sunlight is there, it is a natural source of light. And during the night, we are unable to see the things because there is no sunlight. So we need the man-made sources to see the objects. Now, what produces light and what is light? Light is a form of energy that enables us to see the things. Now, light is produced by some of the things. Now, what is that thing? Is known as source. Anything that produces light is known as source. Now, sources of light, they are divided into two categories: natural source. Natural sources are the sources which produce their own light. Example, you have Example of natural sources is sun, moon, which are produced, which we are not adding anything, which are provided to us with the help of nature itself. Now the other sources which are man-made, they are also known as artificial sources of light. The sources of light which are made by the man are known as artificial sources of light. Now example, candle, tube light, bulb, whatever is producing light and which is made by man. Now according to this production of light, the objects are divided into two categories: luminous objects and non-luminous object. Luminous object which produce their own light. The objects which are able to produce their own light, they are known as luminous object. Example, you have sun, firefly. These are the examples of luminous object. Now talking about non-luminous objects which do not have their own light. Non means not having at all, which do not produce their own light. They are known as non-luminous object. That is moon, box and everything you see around, and they are not producing any light. Moon is a natural source which is non-luminous. It takes the light from sunlight. How it takes the light of sunlight? During the daytime, the sun produces a rays which fall on the moon, and that rays are getting reflected back. When they reflect back, the moon starts shining. Okay, during the day, why the moon does not produce any light? There is a reason why it is not able to produce any light, or why it is unable to, you can't say that it is unable to reflect during the daytime. We are unable to see the moon during the daytime because the rays of the sun, they are larger, or they are large in number as comparing to the moon. So we are unable to see moon during the daytime. During the night, as there is no sun, so the moon, we are able to see the moon. Now when we see the object, different types of object on which the light falls, like we have an object here, the light falls on that, it get reflected back. When the light rays get reflected back, this phenomena enables you to see that object. Now when the light rays fall on different objects, according to that we have divided the objects into three categories. Number one, we have opaque object. Next we have translucent, and number third we have transparent. Okay, come to first, opaque object. Any objects which do not allow the light to pass through them. Suppose the light rays are falling on this object, and light rays will fall, they will reflect the light. They will never allow the light to pass through them. They are known as opaque object. They are known as opaque objects. Example, you have wood, any kind of metal. It can be steel, iron or hard plastic also. And now we take talk about translucent objects. The objects which allow some of the light rays to pass through them. Some will be reflected back, some will be passing through it. or you can say the objects which allow light to pass through them partially. Partially means half of the light rays will be passing and half won't be passing. Example, you have muddy water, polythene, next you have transparent objects. Transparent objects, they allow all the light rays to pass through them easily without any obstacle. These objects will allow all the light rays coming to them, they will allow them to pass. Example, you have your glass, clear glass, and clear glass, and clear water or pure water. Now, if we talk about these three objects and the shadow produced by them, before that we should know what is shadow. Shadow is a dark patch which is formed behind an object. Which kind of object? Only the two objects, that is opaque object and translucent object. Only these two objects have shadow because they block this translucent object, it blocks some of the light, it blocks all the light rays which is falling on it. So any object which block the light, they will form a shadow. Okay, now this transparent object will never form a shadow. This object will have a gray color shadow, and an opaque object will always have a dark color shadow. Now the features of shadow. Shadow is always dark color, or you can say it is always black colored. Now the size of the shadow, the size is always not same. The size of the shadow may vary. As you can see, during the morning and evening the shadow is longer, whereas during the daytime it is shorter. How the size of the shadow varies? Suppose the source of light is near to the object, then the shadow will be shorter, and if the source is far away from the object, then the shadow will be longer. Okay, next we have about the shadow. First thing, it was dark colored. It is the size of the shadow is same. The size is never same in the shadow. Plus the shadow, it will always give just the outline. It never gives the features of the object. The shadow always gives the outline. Now next we have like the shape. Suppose we have a rectangular box. The shadow formed will be a rectangular box. It can never be this way, like you have a triangle here and the shadow will be of rectangle. It can never happen. Shadow will be of same as that of an object. But if the object is colorful, like it is of red color, it will never be red. The shadow would never be red. It will be always black in color. Now only two objects they have shadows. Okay. Next topic. Next feature of shadow is that like we have an object here and source here. The shadow will always be formed just opposite of the light source. Here is a source. It's providing light. It will fall on an object and it will be always on the opposite side of the source. Now suppose we have this object here. The light rays are coming from very far. The shadow produced by this object will be little taller. Okay. But in case we have an object here and the source just above the object, the shadow will be formed here just of shorter size than as comparing to the object. Now, if we talk about when the light rays fall on an object, what happens? Now, you might have seen, many of you might be playing that basketball. When you hit the ball to the ground, it bounces back. That phenomena same applies to the light. When the light rays they fall on an object, they bounce back. The light ray, they are bouncing back. This phenomena is known as reflection of light. Okay. Now, this is, suppose we have taken an object. Here we are taking a mirror and as an object. The light ray which is falling on this mirror, this ray is known as incident ray. When it is striking to an object, it will bounce back or it will reflect back. This ray is known as reflected ray. Now, if we draw a normal means a perpendicular here to the plane of mirror, we see angle formed here and an angle formed here between the normal and reflected ray, incident and normal ray. Name it as N. This angle is known as angle I, angle of incidence, and this angle is angle R, angle of reflection. Now, angle I is always equal to angle R. This is Snell's law. It can never be this way and not equal to angle R. This is wrong. This can never happen. Angle I is always equal to angle R. Second law, this was the first law. Second law, we have incident ray and the reflected ray and the normal. They will always lie in a single plane. The incident ray, the reflected ray and normal are always in single plane. Now, before coming to next topic, we have as a light rays, okay, before discussing the different types of reflections, I have skipped one point, that is, how do the light travel? The light always travels in a straight line, and light can never move this way. It will always travel in a straight line. This phenomena of light, when it travels in a straight line, is known as rectilinear propagation. Rectilinear propagation says that the light always travel in a straight line. You can prove this with a small activity. Just put a candle over here and just take a tube. Observe it from here. You will be easily able to see the rays of light. But if you take same candle and you have bent the pipe and now you want to see this ray of light, if you try to see this ray of light, you won't be able to see. Why? Because the light rays will be coming here, striking to this point. Either they will reflect back, they will move from here, or they will never travel this way. They will just reflect back or move out of the object. So by this activity we can say the light always travel in a straight line. Now the light ray, as we were discussing about this reflection, here not only a single ray will fall, many of the light rays fall. Now when we represent a light ray, we represent it by a straight line and an arrow with it. This is known as a ray of light. And if there are several rays of light coming together, this is known as beam of light, or we can say the cluster of rays is known as beam of light. Okay, now rest of the topic we will be doing in our next part, video 2.